out-toughed him. Norchad looked more like Norchad than he did Monday night when he looked absolutely atrocious. BJ Edgecombe, to me, had the big boy, like tough plays at the end of the game to win that game. And again, I thought this was one that really revealed some of Arkansas's flaws. They just they don't shoot it well from the perimeter, and they don't have a point guard. They don't have somebody that makes it easier for everybody else.
It's a problem. It is. I mean, anytime you don't have a guy that's reliable at the point, and John Calipari's made a career, I mean, off of having somebody typically that's reliable, specifically at that position. And you would think over anything, that would be priority number one as he's trying to get things going there in Fayetteville. Rob, I agree. And I know you and I were talking with the guys before the show about Arkansas. We certainly saw some flaws there. What stood out to you as far as, really what Arkansas needs to get better at? I know Baylor did some great things, but for Arkansas, certainly some flaws. Like Jeff said, anytime there's no facilitator, you're going to be behind the eight ball. Yeah,
well, Baylor's zone had them absolutely flummoxed. They had no idea how to operate against it. It felt like they couldn't figure out any way to kind of get the ball into the middle and get a good look from three until maybe early in the second half, right? And then Baylor started switching up their defenses and showing that zone look and going to a man-to-man. And it just I thought that it was really unimpressive how unprepared they were for what Baylor was going to do defensively. Like, it's not a surprise that Scott Drew rolls out this, it's like a hybrid 2-3, 1-1-3, like a weird zone that he rolls out there. And it's not a great defense. It just kind of gets you out of sorts if you're not expecting it. And in 2024, I don't know how you're not expecting Scott Drew to roll out that zone. Now, I thought Adu Thoreau was unbelievable, right? Like, if he doesn't show up for this game, like, Arkansas gets beat by 25. And I think that what he was able to provide in terms of just a little bit of a boost of energy, I thought was a difference maker for Arkansas. But I have some real concerns about this Arkansas team. Some of it is what Jeff just mentioned, Kenny. Some of it is that, they don't really have anyone that they can play through. Like, there's a lot of guys on paper that are good one-on-one players, right? There's a lot of guys where you look at them and say, I can see the talent that this dude has, but I don't know if the pieces fit. And frankly, if Nelly Davis is going to be a guy that's like passive 2 for 9, I just don't think Arkansas has a chance to be what we expected them to be heading into this season.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what you said about playing offense against a zone, a lot of teams will have 20 plus 30 plays against man defense, right? Against a zone, you might have 4 or 5. So it's much hard. It's much easier to prepare defensively as Baylor running that zone against a team that you have to figure out 4 or 5 of their plays. So I think that was a big thing. The other thing that you kind of brought up there as well is getting the ball in the middle, overloading a side, finding guys for open threes, finding guys in the dunker position, those different things. If you make Baylor have to communicate and pass off assignments and then also find a way to rebound the ball defensively, because that's one of the harder things to do in a zone is to rebound. I know that Baylor's big and long and they're good at that, but just forcing them to make those decisions in real time, you would see that kind of degrade over the game. And I don't think that they were able to do that consistently enough to mount the comeback. Even though the game ended up close, it didn't feel close for most of the game.
Boys, it was a great win for Baylor. Certainly for Arkansas, we have some question marks. I mean, it was a tight game. Let's not panic on Arkansas. It was a great game. They easily, could have made a run there at the end and won. But I'm curious how you feel, Jeff, about how Baylor fits. I mean, we've had a couple game sample size. They played Gonzaga, got hammered. They bounced back. Certainly showed some character with the resilience today in Dallas against Arkansas. But this is, it's a new Big 12. I mean, you look at the Arizonas, the BYUs, Iowa State looks damn good. Houston, typical Final Four kind of caliber team. You got to think the early test will help get them ready. But based on what you've seen, how do you think they fit in that group?
They're thin. They're thin, number one, which I worry about. They need Langston Love back desperately. I don't like the too big look. I like Norchad at the 5. I think they're going to be better down the road that way. He's still long enough to be able to rebound. He's tough enough. So, to me, I would be playing both guards, Rob Wright and Roach, together. I know they're small, but I would play those guys and go with like Edgecombe and Langston Love and play small. I just think that's your best way of being able to get out and run. Obviously, you're not going to be as good in the interior. You're not going to have a big-time shot blocker. That's the issue. And that could hurt him against some teams. I think at times you got to play the big boy Josh with Norchad, but I just worry about their lack of depth. I thought the biggest bright spot tonight was Rob Wright. Like he's good. He can score. He's quick. Second career game. I think he's got high upside.
Yeah, can I respond to that real quick, Chris? I think that the issue you run into with Norchad is that he's a little bit of a defensive liability at the 5 because he really is only 6'6", and like he kind of gets lost when you ask him to play at the 4 spot defensively, and he's not really a floor spacer, so he's not really a 4. It's just kind of he's this dude is an incredibly productive player and obviously an elite player at this level. But there needs to be a certain kind of team built around him to be able to take advantage of the skills that he does have. And I don't know if Baylor has necessarily perfected that. I think part of the reason why we see them, we saw it against Gonzaga where they switched everything 1 through 5. And then as soon as they got a mismatch in the post, they just sent 2 guys at the post. And Gonzaga is too good. Their bigs are too good at passing. They just took advantage of every single one of those mismatches. And if they didn't, it was Graham Ike kicking the ball out to a wing, one swing, wide open 3, and you're dead against Gonzaga. Arkansas couldn't do that. They couldn't take advantage of that mismatch. But I think it's what you have to deal with when you have Norchad Omier on your roster that kind of it gives you a really high floor as a team, but I think it caps a little bit what you can be big picture, if that makes sense.
I think it does, and I think there's certainly some matchup concerns as they navigate through the Big 12 as we move forward. You talked to our boy, Scott Drew, earlier today, who's just, especially after a win, he's just always in a good mood. Certainly this was a gutsy performance. Let's hear from him. Jeff Goodman was the guy who caught up with him. Here is a happy Scott Drew after a win over Arkansas today.
All right, pleased to welcome in the first guest this season on After Dark is Scott Drew, and that's probably the way it should be. That's probably
well. Listen, I can tell you one thing. Anyone that schedules 2 top 25 games in the first 2 games of the year. One sec. Someone was trying to get a picture with me. Hey, we're on with Jeff Goodman. We could not mess this up. All right. So all right.
You need to go to a psychiatrist. That's what you were going to say.
But anyway, it was a great opportunity to bounce back and show everybody that we're a lot better than we played in the first game. And you know what? I loved what the team did. It started with me. I didn't have us prepared right. I blame myself, which main culprit, and then everybody else took accountability for what they needed to, and we were a lot more prepared, aggressive, and this is a great team. There's probably 20 or 30 that have talent and experience enough to make it to a Final Four, and we played 2 of them.
So what was the culture of joy like these last 4 or 5 days?
Well, it's a lot more joyful right now. But you know what? Honestly, when everybody's bought in and everyone takes accountability, you're not. I mean, everybody felt terrible with our performance. And again, that's not taking anything away from Gonzaga. Returning 7 of 8, they might be the best team in the country today. And we played a lot of Gonzaga teams. This one could be as good as there is. I mean, so it's really, really good. Coach Few's great. The crowd was great. But let's talk about the Baylor win tonight in American Airlines Arena. Great bounce back. We played great defense, and we took care of the ball. I mean, Arkansas they forced so many turnovers, and for our guards to only have 8 turnovers was outstanding.
You brought the zone back. I like it.
After a 40-point loss, we bring anything back.